I knew that old age would not be honeyed, but I didn't think it would come in the form of a smiling woman with a tattoo on her wrist and a warm voice that would eventually take everything from me. My name is Gus Whitmore, 72. I'm a widower, a former school bus driver. I had a simple dream to live in peace. I didn't want wealth, I didn't want adventure. I wanted my rocking chair, pizza once a week, and a morning without back pain. When Joy, my wife, died of cancer 2 years ago, something in me broke. 38 years together, and then you just wake up alone. A cold pillow. No sounds. No smell of coffee, no her grumbling about the TV, which I hadn't turned off. The loneliness is so quiet that you can hear your heart beating. Like in prison. I walked around the house talking to myself. I started listening to audiobooks because the voice in my ears at least reminded me that I was still here. The TV was buzzing all day long. Every call was either spam or a bill reminder. Daughter Brenda. Once a month, a short "How are you, Dad?" She has her own life. Everyone has their own. I have only time and ghosts. When I had heart surgery, the doctor said, "Gus, you need someone to be with you." The social service gave me a list of nurses. I called a few of them. Some were rude, some were strange. Some immediately asked if I smoked in the house. And then there was Kelsey. Her voice on the phone was so gentle, as if honey was being poured into my ears. She said, "I like to work with people who have stories to tell." And I did. I remember the day she first crossed the threshold. Hannah jeans, backpack, hair in a bun. She was 30. She smelled of mint and something. Trust. She smiled, took my elbow, and said, "Yes, we're going to be friends, Mr. Whitmore." Kelsey was attentive. She brought me smoothies. She told me I couldn't have coffee anymore. She put my medications in boxes by day. She told me about TikTok, where she sometimes dances, just for fun. She taught me how to use the phone to see Brenda's photos. She said, "You need attention, don't be shy," and I wasn't shy. A week later, she knew the code to my door. In 2 weeks, she had a key. A month later, I was already giving her money to buy groceries. Because who am I to carry heavy bags from Walmart? She opened a bank account for me with online access. She explained how to pay the bills. She said, "We will organize everything so you don't have to worry." And I didn't. For the first time in 2 years, I felt calm. Once I remembered that she had once forgotten to change my catheter, but when I started talking about it, she responded indignantly. "You must be confused. And I always do everything on time, you were just tired." And I agreed, because I really was tired. And she looked so confident. Gradually, I stopped leaving the house. Kelsey told me that there was a virus outside, people were getting sick, and it was better to be careful. She brought me everything, even letters, even the newspaper. I didn't have to worry, she did everything for me. At that time I thought I was happy. Yes, I'm old. Yes, I have a sick heart. But there is someone who cares about me, someone who puts a blanket on my feet, who knows how much I love meatloaf, who does not forget my birthday. But now that I look back, everything looked too good, too comfortable, too smooth. It was like a TV series that you want to watch until you notice that the plot is the same. The scenes are suspiciously repetitive, and the ending was not written by you. One morning I woke up and saw that my favorite glasses were gone. Then the old photo album. Then Joy's watch. She said I cleaned it because it was dusty. But something stirred inside me, subtle, but all too familiar. I trusted her with everything. And now I think maybe she knew how to pick the lock from the very first day, even if I gave her the key myself. You know, there are moments when it seems like fate is winking at you. You've almost given up, almost resigned, and then someone comes along. And you think, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for all my life. Kelsey came into my life not like a storm, but like fresh air after a long suffocation. She was light, carefree, as if she had come just to talk, not to cure my loneliness. She had something that was lacking around me, interest. Whether it was sincere or pretend, I didn't know at the time. But I didn't care. I remember how she looked into my eyes. Not as a daughter who needed to, but as someone who was really interested. She listened when I talked about joy. She didn't interrupt me. She didn't run away when I cried. She just sat there and held my hand. I was tired of being invisible. Over the years, you become like an old lamp. You stand in the corner. The light is still there, but no one turns it on. And Kelsey, she turned the switch. I felt like I existed again. That someone cares. Aide, we laughed at her TikTok video where she was singing in a bathrobe with a cat on her shoulder. "It's for my followers," she said. "I need to stay afloat in this world, otherwise it will swallow me." And I understood her. The world is like a river now, fast and ruthless. If you don't move, you will be swept away. We started drinking tea together in the evening. She told me about the news that I didn't have time to read. She even laughed at politicians. I answered, remembering how it used to be joy, and I used to watch the news on the old TV. Kelsey did not interrupt, did not rush. She was like a part of the family I was missing. And that's where I made my first mistake. I let her in too deep. I showed her the place where I keep my documents. I told her about my insurance. I even told her that I had some savings for a rainy day. And she nodded and said, "Don't worry, I'm not the type to take other people's things." And I believed her. I really wanted to believe her. One day she asked it, "And if something happens to you, who will take care of all this?" I was surprised. "Something is what?" She smiled. "Well, risks, illnesses. Maybe I should have a power of attorney just in case." I waved it off. "Wait, it's too early to think about that." Aide. She nodded, but something flashed in her eyes, barely cold. I, an old fool, thought she was just worried. I thought maybe this was a chance. A chance for something human, warm, even if it's not love, but at least something. Because we old people are not looking for passion. We are looking for calmness, attentiveness, and the opportunity to talk to someone without haste. Sometimes I caught myself thinking, what if we had met earlier? I know, it's funny. She is 40 years younger. But when you're alone, when no one asks for your time, and suddenly someone appears to whom your voice is not just background noise, you start to invent. Hopes are poison, especially in old age. 2 months later, Kelsey was no longer coming for 3 hours, but staying overnight. She said it was bad to drive back and forth. I agreed. She would bring pillows and lay down on the living room couch. And one day I woke up and heard her talking to someone on the phone. Quietly, tense. I could not hear the words. And when I asked, she said it was my mom, who was in debt again. I started noticing little things. The cash in her wallet became less. Once she couldn't buy groceries because the card didn't work. The second attempt was the same. I checked the balance, everything looked normal. But something in the air had changed. Maybe I had really met someone I had been waiting for all my life. Or maybe I just gave the key to my soul to someone who already had a lockpick up his sleeve. A password is not just a word. It is trust, it is what you breathe when no one is looking. And a key is even more intimate than a hug. Because not everyone you let into your house has to come into your life. Kelsey was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of my tea, the one I always brewed for myself with linden blossom and honey. I walked over, sat down across from her, and asked her as if by the way, "Have you by any chance seen my big notebook? The one where everything is written down?" She made big eyesing. "Which one?" "The one," and I clarified, the one where I kept all the passwords, accounts, document numbers. She shook her head, "No, I haven't seen it." But something in her voice sounded too confident to me. Too calm. Everything that was supposed to be mine was shared. My phone, which I would not have let anyone hold before, was already on her side of the couch. I could see her scrolling through it, clicking on things, even shooting a video. I'll update your contacts," she said, "and I also made a backup in case something happens." In case something happens. She loved this phrase so much. Like a mantra. Like an excuse. I decided to check my email. my old Gmail, which I hardly ever used. It turned out that the password had been changed. I tried to log in, no luck. I requested a recovery via phone, same story. I asked Kelsey, did you change anything there? She smiled me, and I had a no way, do I have your passwords? And there was that voice again. Warm, gentle, and somehow empty, like music from a speaker that wasn't meant for you. The worst thing happened when I came home from the pharmacy. The door was open, but Kelsey came out of the bathroom with a towel overhead as if it were her house. Didn't you lock it? She asked. I didn't say anything. But something was stiff inside. I never forgot to lock it, even when I went to take out the trash. The next day I received a letter and email. By some miracle, I received a notification to another email which I had even forgotten about. The email read, "Your account has been successfully linked to a new device." I hadn't connected any devices. I looked at the date. It was the day Kelsey brought over a new iPad to make it easier for you to watch YouTube. In the evening, I overheard her talking on the phone. Everything is going according to plan. He's an old man. He doesn't suspect anything. I stopped on the threshold. My heart began to pound. But when I opened the door, she was already laughing with a friend. It was a joking conversation, she said. Maybe I was really starting to go crazy. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. But there can't be that many accidents. Passwords changed. Mail is blocked. Even the bank, once I was told that my online page was inactive. And I logged in every week. I was looking for that notebook again. It was not in the drawer. It was not under my pillow either. The bookcase was empty. I asked Kelsey directly, "Are you sure you didn't take anything?" As she looked at me the way people look at children who have broken a vase, "You are safe. I am here for you." And that's when it got scary. Because part of me wanted to believe it. I wanted her to tell the truth. None of that, all this was just an old man's fantasy. But the other part. She saw the coldness in her eyes. The kind that only appears when a person has already decided that they don't need you as a person. Only as a means. Somewhere at the very bottom of my memory, Joy's phrase from a few years ago, when we were laughing at a TV show, came to mind. People never steal suddenly. They steal gradually. First, they steal trust. And then I realized she already has not only my password, not only the key to my house. She has the key to my mind. That night I did not fall asleep for the first time. I lay there and thought, how much longer can I hold on before she takes the last thing left, my name? I didn't buy a pink teddy bear chair, and I definitely didn't order a ring for $1,500. But for some reason it was all in my name, on my card, and as it turned out, at my expense. It all started with a banal message. An ordinary letter in an app that I honestly could not have noticed. "Thank you for your purchase. Oh, your order is on its way." I clicked on it and got hung up because had I ordered a chair and some kind of bed with a lifting mechanism. I thought maybe it's a mistake. No. I clicked, returned to cart, and saw a whole list of purchases I hadn't even dreamed of. I went to Kelsey and showed her the message. "Did you order something from Amazon?" I asked. And she paused for a moment and then, laughing, "Oh, I must have accidentally logged into your account. I just wanted to surprise you. You said you wanted a comfortable chair, right?" I didn't say anything, but something clicked in my head. A surprise then. In the evening, I opened my bank statement. For the first time in months, I decided to take a closer look, and there it was, the truth. $40 for a coffee machine, $90 for some massage slippers, $300 a mountain bike, a bike Carl, I'm 76. Maybe I really bought something. Or did I accidentally press it? I thought. But I'm not a fool, and I'm not a child, and I don't throw money around, and I'm definitely not going to be riding a bike around California at my age. I approached Kelsey a second time. I told her straight out, I didn't buy any of this stuff. "What's going on?" She answered without a shadow of a doubting, "Well, you said yourself you want to try something new to spice up your routine. I helped you. You just forgot. Forgot. Me. I remember what I ate on Monday and what color socks I wore for my son's birthday 3 years ago. You forgot. It was insulting and very convenient for her. 2 days later, my old friend Bill came by. He brought a pie and a laptop. He's setting. I saw an interesting video on YouTube. A woman tells how she tricked an old man and got a lot of money out of him. She says he thought they were a couple and she was just a nurse. I took a gulp of air. The video is new, and the girl was from California, and she looked suspiciously familiar. I called Kelsey, but she didn't answer. Then I saw that the account with the video had already been deleted, but Bill had saved the screenshot. The same smile, the same voice. It was her. I went to the bank again, this time in person. I asked for a printout of all transactions for the last 3 months. And here's what I saw: expenses for cosmetics, airline tickets, some luxury hotel in Vegas. In my name. From my card, I couldn't believe it wasn't just a lie, it was a complete invasion. She was living my life, and it was also convincing me that I wanted it. I stood in the living room looking at an old photo of me, Joy, and little Ellie on the beach. And I thought, how did I get to this point? How did I, who had controlled every penny, every step all my life, become a victim? I decided to tell her everything. When she came back in the evening, I said, "Oh, you are robbing me, and I know everything." Kelsey smiled. "That's insulting. Don't you trust me? Maybe you have dementia. I just want to help you." And then I saw in her eyes not pity. I saw anger, cold, silent. Next morning, my phone was blocked. I couldn't log into my bank account. And the fridge was filled with food I don't eat but that Joy would have loved. Even though she died 4 years ago. And I started thinking, maybe this is not just a hoax. Maybe someone is playing a game that is bigger than I realized. I dialed her for the 3rd time that day. And again, silence. Not a single dial tone. No message. Just nothing. And I was sitting in my own house with a stranger's nurse who seemed to have stripped me to the bone, and I had no one to turn to. My only daughter was silent. I tried again to convince myself that it was an accident. Maybe Ellie was just busy. She has her own family, 2 children, a job, some projects. I didn't want to be an intrusive old man calling every hour to hear a voice. New. But then why has her phone been off for 2 days? I decided to try another way, to write to her on Facebook. I'm not a fan of the damn site, but sometimes it's helped me out. I logged on, opened the messenger, and typed a short message. "Ellie, please call me back. Urgent." I clicked send, and immediately saw the messaging. User has changed privacy settings. You cannot send the message. What? I couldn't even write to my own daughter. I started to remember when was the last time we talked normally. A month ago. She said she would come to visit next week, but she didn't. Then she sent me a message. "Dad, I'm sorry, I'm busy at work, we'll talk later." Ellie's not getting in touch. I told Kelsey as she brought me tea, sweet to the point of nausea. She just shrugged her shoulders. Maybe she's offended. "You said you had a fight the last time you were together," I said. We didn't fight. She just disappeared." Kelsey sighed. Maybe she did something. Me. Guilty. I'm the one sitting here alone like a fool. I opened the mail. I flipped through the latest letters from Ellie. The usual, "Dad, how are you? Oh, it's great that you bought yourself a new kettle. We need to meet." And no response to my requests to meet. And then there was silence. And then I saw an email from 3 weeks ago that I hadn't paid attention to. It had one sentence. "Dad, I found out something. I don't know what to do with it." Nothing else. I got scared. Because there was something broken in that sentence. As if she didn't know whether I was her ally or part of the problem. I started thinking maybe she found out about Kelsey. Maybe she had seen something. And instead of talking to me, she decided to run away. I decided to call from another number. I took an old phone I found in a drawer. I inserted the SIM card that Joy had left behind. I called and the rings started. 1, 2, 3 rings, and then but no one picked up. And then I heard a familiar voice. The answering machine. "Hi, this is Ellie." I can't answer right now. If it's you, Dad, I love you. But I can't talk right now. What does can't mean? Who's stopping her? And why can't she talk to me? I sat there holding the old phone, which still smelled of lavender, Joy's favorite scent, and I felt everything in me freeze. Because maybe my daughter wasn't keeping quiet voluntarily, I went to Bill. He was the only one I still trusted. I sat down on his veranda and told him everything like a confession. "Do you think Kelsey had something to do with it?" he asked. "I don't know. But she's gone somewhere, and so is Ellie." Bill looked at his phone, tapped something quickly. "Wait, I saw her picture. She was on a forum about nurse abuse, right? Some of the posts were deleted, but there's still some left." "A what? What forum?" Of old people who've been cheated. She wrote something about a father who trusted the wrong person. I came back home. It was nighttime. Kelsey was asleep. I sat down in the kitchen, turned on my laptop, and found that forum. The posts were partially hidden, but there were fragments. One of them began with the words, "My dad thinks he has found a friend, but he is deluded, and I'm afraid it will be too late soon." And suddenly I realizing I was not just alone. I was a trap for myself, and maybe for her too. When I went to the bathroom in the morning, only ice water came out of the tap, and the shower was dripping and squeaking like an old record. Kelsey was mumbling in the kitchen, but she didn't respond to my question. What's wrong with the hot water? And then I went into the office and saw the computer. It was smashed. My laptop, my only window to the real world, was on the floor, smashed as if it had been thrown against the wall. "What is this?" I screamed. Kelsey came over, made big eyes. I was cleaning and he fell. It was an accident. I saved everything on it. All the photos, all the documents, passwords, letters. "I'll pay for the repair." She grumbled and disappeared into her room. And I stood in the middle of the office with a piece of the keyboard in my hands and felt that something was broken not only in the equipment. It was broken in me. I was shaking not because of the equipment. It was because my last messages with Ellie were on laptop. The same posts on the forum. This is her choice. And then I realized she is monitoring my calls. She sees that I am trying to escape from her net. And that's why she's playing access control. Now, I decided to go to the workshop. I took the rest of the laptop, put it in my backpack, and left quietly while Kelsey was sitting in the living room with a cup of coffee. The service said briefly, "Nothing can be restored here. This is not a fall. It's a blunt force trauma." So someone on purpose. 100%. I returned home empty-handed, my heart beating like crazy. My whole world data, evidence, history was erased. I didn't sleep that night. I thought, and kept turning everything over in my head. I remembered that I had an old e-reader. It had a function to access the internet. It was slow, but it could still allow me to find Ellie's number or at least go back to the forum. But where was she? I reached into the drawer, she was gone. But instead of the reader, I found something else. A small voice recorder. Aide, an old one from the 90s. I used to record my ideas on it. I pressed play and heard Kelsey's voice. "The old man's been tampering with the computer again. We'll have to hack it. He's snooping around. And then there are those calls he's been making to Bill. That Bill guy needs to be isolated. He asked too many questions." I froze. This was not just evidence. It was a confession. My heart was pounding in my ears. I could not believe it. That I was not just being deceived. I was being methodically destroyed. They were breaking my soul. They were knocking out my equipment. Restricted access. And now they wanted to isolate my only friend. I sat down in a chair, recorder in hand, and for the first time in a long time I cried. What should I do next? Go to the police without equipment, without my daughter in touch. Tell Bill and put him in danger. And then I heard behind Meg, "What are you listening to?" It was Kelsey. And she was standing there with a butter knife in her hand. All I had was $90,000. They were my backup, my plan B, my old age. And one morning, When I finally decided to check my balance through the AM because I had no computer and Kelsey was still charging my phone, I saw 0, or rather, numbers that hurt more than any diagnosis. Account balance $0. At first I thought I was mistaken. I checked it again, then again, but nothing changed. 90,000 had evaporated. And not just like that. The last transactions were displayed on the screen: transfers, online purchases, large cash withdrawals. And I hadn't done any of this. Kelsey was coming out of the kitchen at that very moment, toast in hand. She was smiling. "Everything okay?" she asked. "My money's gone." "All of it," I said slowly. She wasn't scared. On the contrary, she pressed her lips together and nodded. "It happens. It's not crooks. It was someone who had access. And only one person knew the passwords to the account." And I looked her straight in the eye. "Don't you believe me?" Her voice darkened. "I do everything for you. I cook, clean, bring you medicine. And you accuse me of stealing. Who else could have done it? Maybe your daughter. She doesn't say anything. Maybe she stole from you." Those words were like a punch in the gut. And Kelsey knew where to hit. Because the memory of Ellie still hurt me, and she used it. That night I finally got my phone back. While Kelsey went to the store, I took it out of the charger and looked at the call history. No call to the bank. No call to Ellie. But there was a message to my number with confirmation codes. She was accessing my account from my phone. She installed a banking app and withdrew money in installments. The scheme was simple and brilliant in its meanness. An idea began to form in my head. I was not the kind of old man who would just sit down and accept his defeat. I still had a shred of dignity and a little bit of sense. I recorded Kelsey's voice on a voice recorder, the same recording where she admitted to breaking my equipment on purpose. I sent it to my old cloud account. The next morning I went to see Bill, this time with all the evidence. She withdrew 90,000, all of it, every penny. And now she wants to make me look crazy. Bill listened in silence, just clutching his coffee cup. "This is serious," he said. "But you can't do anything without your daughter. She's your successor at the bank, right?" I nodded. "Without Ellie, I'm nothing in this situation. I came home and realized that despair was no longer enough. Now I'm angry. I've been played, I've been robbed. And they did it under my nose. I couldn't prove it officially, because the evidence, the voice on the recorder, has yet to be verified. And a bank without a lawyer does not listen to an old man in a vest. But I did one thing. I found Ellie's phone number in her old forum, in her old account, where she used to write, 'I'm looking for a lawyer for my father. His nurse is acting strangely.' I dialed her number. I called 3 times. Then I sent a text message. And then I wrote Ellie. She stole everything. 90,000, I have a recording, please. Respond." I pressed send and went to the bathroom, where the shower still doesn't work, where the water flows in a thin stream. There I looked at myself in the mirror and asked, "Dang, is this the bottom? Is there still room to fall?" I stood in the courtroom with a battered briefcase containing my printouts, notes, and the belief that at least one adult in the system would finally listen to me. But instead, the judge, a dry-cheeked man with white eyebrows, laughed. Loudly, like something out of a talk show. The courtroom was cramped, smoky, and unfairly cozy. I was entered into the case as a petitioner. That's what it says, petitioner. Not a victim, not a deceived pensioner. Just an old man who wants something. Kelsey sat across from me, in a light blue suit with a lawyer, young with perfect hair. She even wore makeup. Yesterday she was howling about a microwave, but today she was a lady with charm. "So," the judge said, reviewing the case, "you say your nurse stole $90,000 from you?" "Yes," I said, "and I have proof. Audio recordings, transactions from my account." He raised his eyebrows. And these recordings were made without her permission." Well, of course. She would not have allowed me to record it. And then the judge laughed. He looked up to the ceiling, then looked at Kelsey's lawyer and hummed again. You do realize that in this country even an old man has to obey the law," he said. "And also," the judge took the sheet, "you received care services twice without a contract. Was that a voluntary arrangement?" She came every day. "Family doesn't sign contracts." Another smile. "But then there's no financial responsibility." Kelsey sat there staring at me sadly, like a dog in an abused dog commercial. Her lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client is a young woman from a poor family. She selflessly cared Mr. Grayson, and he, according to her, repeatedly gave her money voluntarily, without coercion. He gave her 90,000. I snapped. "Those are your words, and legally we don't have a contract that would refute this," the lawyer replied. I could feel my palms sweating. My heart was pounding. Shame, anger, despair, everything was mixed. But 'cause the old man doesn't have the right to a defense now," I exclaimed. "Was supposed to film myself every day to prove that I didn't give her that money." The judge did not answer. I had only one thing left to dog text Ellie. She answered. She wrote briefly, "I'm coming. I'll be there tomorrow. Hang in there." I read these words in my head, standing in the midst of absurdity, and I realized that everything was still ahead. If she really comes, if she doesn't change her mind, because only she could officially confirm that she had not withdrawn money from my account, that someone else had access, that I wasn't making it up. The judge decided to postpone the hearing. He said, "I see no grounds for a crime, but I'll give you one more week. Bring something weighty." I left the courtroom with my shoulders down. I was not expelled, but they didn't protect me either. They just gave me a break so that my grandfather could fight the wind a little more. They were just messing with me, I told Bill. We were sitting in the backyard, drinking something that used to be called coffee. "It was a theater show," he replied. "But remember, buddy, every trial has a backstage, and there are surprises there. If Ellie shows up, everything could change. And if she doesn't, then..." Bill didn't finish, because at that moment a text message sounded. Ellie had written another. "I'm in town. I need to see Kelsey. Without you." I read it a few times. I didn't realize if it was good or bad, but it was definitely unexpected. I thought Brenda had disappeared from my life forever, that after all those years of silence, she had either died or ideally forgotten about my existence. But no, because just when I'm at my lowest, just when life presses down like new shoes on old bones, she comes back. With a bag, and with a smile. It was in the morning. I had just made myself a cup of coffee, the cheap kind with the flavor of cardboard and memories. And I'm sitting there thinking about how to get out of the judicial pit when suddenly the doorbell rings. It's a ringing. Not a knock, but a call I haven't heard in years. I open the door, and there she is. "Hi, Larry," she says, and I'm speechless. What a number. Brenda looked different, not older but more solid. She used to be a fire red hair, laughing like a radio on full blast. And now she had neatly tied up hair, a gray trench coat, and glasses. She's more reserved, but her eyes are the same. Sharp, as if they can see right through you. I had flashbacks of the TV flashing without a signal. We were young. We were stupid. We were in love. "She left when I lost my job," she said. "You are not the man I want to grow old with." And she disappeared. For about 5 years I drank cheap whiskey and cursed her name. And now she's standing there. Why did you come?" I asked sharply. "I heard about Kelsey," she replied. "Ellie texted me. She said you've been ripped off. So you came back to save the old fool." "I came back because I want to help, and because I know something." It was so quiet that I heard water dripping in the sink. I was shaking a little. Not from anger, it was uncertainty. What does she want from me? To know Kelsey," she suddenly said. "And I know her from a different angle. It turns out that Brenda worked for the same private nurse firm that Kelsey used to work for. She remembers her as scandalous, conflicted, and very cunning. You're not the first, but you seem to be the first one to go to court." I sat down. I held my head with my hands. I felt as if a train had run over me and then backed up. "And what do you want, Brenda?" I want to testify. I have archived letters from that firm. Statements from other clients. We didn't go to the police then, but now is the time. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Life is a kind of bloody comedy. My ex, who left me at the worst possible moment, is now coming to pull me out of the mud. And I, a fool, don't know whether to trust her or send her away. Later, I told Bill everything. He was silent for a long time. Then he just said either she really loves you, or she owes something to herself. But damn it, take this card. You don't have many left. I was awake. I stared at the ceiling, listened to the old refrigerator working, and in my head Brenda, her voice, her eyes, her betrayal, her return, and the question, can I forgive the person who once threw me out of my life like trash? The next morning, Brenda and I went to see her lawyer. She was holding the same folder of evidence. I didn't know what was in it yet, but I knew it would change everything. And it was then that Elling wrote again. "Dad, I need you to do nothing right now. Wait for news. Kelsey might be pregnant." My hands were already shaking when I got the message. "Dad, I need you to do nothing right now. Wait for the news. Kelsey might be pregnant." I couldn't believe my eyes. Everything I had been working toward, everything I had planned. It was now on the verge of complete destruction. I didn't have time to think. I picked up the phone and dialed Brenda. "What are we doing?" I asked, almost breaking down. "Calm down, Larry," she replied. "Just calm down and wait." But how could I calm down when everything I had was about to fall apart? I sat there and waited. The time was endless. Every minute seemed like an hour. Every call, every sound in the house reminded me of that terrible moment when I lost everything. "Larry, it's me." Brenda's voice was calm, but I could hear the tension in it. "You have to understand one thing. Kelsey has thrown us a new game. Now we have to act fast." I could feel my heart beating faster. It turned out that Kelsey hadn't just taken my money and run. She knew more. She was part of a bigger scheme. Kelsey was the face of an entire network that was stealing from old people in need. And now it was all taking on a new form. "She has connections. She wasn't just looking out for you," Brenda said. "She was an agent. And she had planned this from the beginning." I felt as if I had been pushed back into a black hole. All my attempts to get back up were going nowhere. My money, my efforts, my faith, all of it was unappreciated. Everything I had done, everything I was striving for, fell apart like a house of cards in the wind. I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking cold coffee, and thinking, what now? What's next? I was no longer sure if I could go back. Brenda brought me some documents. They were copies of letters I had never seen before. They confirmed that Kelsey worked for the same firm as the other elders who had been ripped off. But now I knew it wasn't just theft. This was a system where she was being taken advantage of. "If this is true, Larry," Brenda said, looking at me with a serious expression, "we can stop her. We can shut her down. But we have to go to the police." So I was faced with the question, should I go to the police? Should I trust the system that was essentially working against me? But another part of me knew that this was my last chance. And at all those years of silence, all those losses, all of that could end now. I tried to understand whether I was ready for it. Was I ready to lose even more to get what was mine? Asked Brenda, and I discussed the possibility of action. I couldn't shake the feeling that this plan wouldn't work. Kelsey was cunning. She was deeply entangled in this situation, and I knew she wouldn't have a hard time finding a way to get out of this trap. Still, I was ready for a fight. "What's next?" I asked. "You're going to go to the police. You'll bring the documents. We're going to do this right, Larry." At that moment, I asked myself again, can I trust her? Wouldn't all this be a trap for me? Brenda is back after all these years of silence. And even if she wants to help, can you trust someone who has left you alone when the worst was to come? I understood Brenda was not my savior. She was part of this story. But was Kelsey the only real enemy? My world suddenly fell apart. though I no longer believed in people. It seemed to me that everyone was trying to use me. My relationship with my daughter began to crumble. My old ties were breaking before my eyes. And all this because I believed in other people's promises for so long, hoped for so long that I could control everything. And here in the shadow of all this evil, I sat and prepared for a new step, a new blow that I knew would be even more painful. Meanwhile, Brenda had already started calling her friends. I knew she wouldn't stop there. But what would it mean for me? Would I be left alone, or would I be able to find a way to get back what I had lost? It was not over yet, but I didn't know how it would end. I was sitting in the dark, surrounded by the shadows of the past. Every sound, every breath was a silent echo of all my mistakes. Everything I wanted was gone. But how could I have imagined that the end of this story would be like this? The phone in my hands trembled, as did my heart. Brenda was calling again, and her voice didn't sound the same as before. "Larry, this is important," she said. "We found Kelsey. She's in your house. I didn't understand. How was that possible? How could she be in my house? I had checked everything. Everything was under control." I rushed to the door, trying not to think about what was left behind. Fear understood me more than ever before. My heart was pounding in my chest. My legs seemed to be unsteady. "What do you mean?" I tried to understand, but the words no longer sounded the same as before. And then, when I got home, I saw her. Kelsey was sitting in my chair, so calm it was strange. She had no intention of running away. It was incredible to feel that. All those months of thinking she was a traitor were actually just part of a bigger game. Kelsey was no ordinary fraudster. She was one of the few who could find a way out of this trap. The shy, like me, was a victim. "Larry," she said, looking at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. "It's not what you think. You were part of the plan from the beginning." I couldn't believe my ears. How could this be possible? How could I have been part of something I didn't even know about? Kelsey slowly told me everything I had been trying to understand for so long. What I could not have predicted was how it would end. My story was far from over. Or was there any hope left? Or had I gone too far in this game to find what I had lost? No one can know what really happened.